Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.
How can a marathon mindset predispose you to injury? Well, first of all, for runners, there are really only two types of running injuries. A traumatic injury happens as a result of some accident. It might be that you roll your ankle or you trip and fall. You cannot plan for trauma. The second type of running injury is an overtraining injury, and I would argue that all overtraining injuries come as a consequence of a particular mindset. Now this you can plan for and protect yourself against an overtraining injury. Part of the struggle in training for any endurance event like a marathon is that you know you'll have to dig deep and push yourself to stay motivated and stay on schedule with your training. As soon as you sign up for a marathon, you start to think about what it's going to take to finish it. You know you'll have to build an enormous amount of fitness to finish. You come up with a plan, you design a series of workouts, and you realize you are going to have to suffer. But even before you begin your first workout, you convince yourself that success will require pain and suffering. You imagine long runs in the dark, you picture track workouts in the rain, and you are prepared for the work ahead. But before you begin, you already know you will have days when you feel lazy and sluggish. You will have days when you don't really want to run, and on those days, you just have to suffer through. You also know that on race day, you will be running fast for a long time, and you know it will not be easy, but you're prepared to put in the workouts to train your brain to suffer through any pain that happens on race day. You will be prepared to suffer and push through during the race. The real trouble for a runner that can lead to an overtraining injury is when you are suffering and pushing through at the wrong time. Look, it's one thing to suffer at 22 miles, but you should not be suffering 22 days before the race. Working hard? Yes. Fighting to stay motivated? Yes. Suffering? No. As soon as you miss a workout or you get sick or something happens that disrupts your training, you start convincing yourself that you need to double up and suffer more. That's when you overdo it. That's when you get an overtraining injury. You suffer through a little ache and pain that would have gone away if you'd have just let it recover for a day or two. In the book, Be Ready on Race Day, the author talks a lot about the importance of being able to adjust your training on the fly. In fact, he even suggests that the common routine of writing out a 16-week training plan is a little foolish and perhaps even a waste of time. If you really just stop and think about it for a second, it's hard to imagine that you will not have some unforeseen deadline at work, a cold, or some other family issue come up that might interfere with your training over a given 4-month block of time. We all know that things come up that interfere with training at some point. So the author of Be Ready on Race Day actually suggests when you're designing your training plan, you should only write out the first few weeks of the training in a really detailed manner. Now, I think this is fantastic advice. Many of the runners I see who developed an overtraining injury will tell me that they knew some sort of trouble was brewing. They could feel some odd ache and pain for days, sometimes even weeks, but because they had an entire detailed 4-month training plan, they just could not muster up the courage to skip a workout or completely rework the rest of the training plan when they realized that they really should skip some workout because they're too sore. When you stare at that 4-month calendar with a very clear progression of workouts, it's just hard to imagine how you can skip any key workout and then reassemble the rest of the plan. The unfortunate reality is that many of those athletes will simply skip one hard workout and then take that workout and jam it in somewhere in the schedule where it really and truly does not belong. That causes trouble. You should keep in mind that your coach's job is to maximize your physiologic capacity for increasing strength and fitness without getting you injured. If your coach is actually doing the very best job, you are always basically hovering right beneath your threshold for injury. Your training plan is set up and designed specifically to work your body to the point it's about to break. But your training plan is supposed to keep you from actually breaking. It just stands to reason that the pre-planned periods of rest, the days off, and the weeks of lower levels of activity, they're all specifically designed to allow you to rest and recover and stay below that threshold for healing. So when you take a track workout or a long run and you skip it, but then jam it in between a couple of other workouts, you are cranking the tissue damage to red line levels. That is when athletes get injured. Most athletes are unnecessarily hard on themselves. We don't want to feel like we're being lazy, but skipping a workout when you're sick, injured, or stressed out is not being lazy. It's being thoughtful and deliberate. Make no mistake, I believe when you have those days where you wake up and you just feel generally tired and somewhat exhausted, you still have to put on your shoes and run out the door. But when you feel some soreness in your calf muscle, some ache in your Achilles tendon, or some vague throbbing pain on the top of your foot, you cannot ignore it. Those odd sensations are your signal to call your coach and rework your plan immediately. But if you maintain your marathon mindset and you just tell yourself you're supposed to suffer, you will suffer yourself right into an overtraining injury. And then you won't have days of workouts to reorganize. You may wind up with weeks or even months of completely avoidable time on the couch. Talk to your coach, communicate every little odd sensation, and don't let a marathon mindset bully you into an overtraining injury.
Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.